When my boss informed me that I could take a long, paid vacation, I was a bit confused at first. Of course, the prospect of taking a break and getting away from the work routine warmed my soul, but at the same time, I was plagued by doubts. What should I do? Where should I direct my energy? I didn't want to waste this time idly wandering around the house or burning hours on social media. And then it hit me. Why not dedicate this vacation to self-development, as I had long dreamed of doing? Ideas began to flash through my mind. Start running in the mornings, sign up for cooking classes, learn to play the guitar. But the most tempting idea seemed to be finally learning French. I had always liked how it sounded, so melodic, romantic, airy. And the very word French already seemed to promise adventure and a spirit of adventure. Without much thought, I called Eve, my wife's mother, with whom I had always had a wonderful relationship. Eve worked as a French teacher at the university and had a reputation as a brilliant linguist and polyglot. Who better to entrust my language education to? "Ethan, I'd be happy to help you learn French," Eve responded enthusiastically to my request. "I'd be delighted to work with such a motivated student. I have an opening on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the afternoon. How does that schedule work for you?" "Eve, that's perfect!" I rejoiced, already mentally anticipating our lessons. "I'm completely free on those days, so it's settled. We start next week." "Wonderful!" Eve's voice rang with genuine joy. "Then I'll expect you next Tuesday at 5 o'clock sharp. Don't be late. And don't forget your notebook and a good mood." "Yes, ma'am," I barked jokingly and hung up the phone. Putting the phone down, I stared thoughtfully at one point, imagining the upcoming lessons. For some reason, it seemed to me that it would be something special. Not just learning grammar and vocabulary, but an exciting experience full of surprises and discoveries. The thought of Eve and I spending time in fascinating conversations in French made my blood stir and made my heart beat faster. But I couldn't even imagine where this road would lead me, and what passions this seemingly innocent desire to learn the language of love would awaken. Our lessons with Eve began, and I immediately realized that I had not been mistaken in my choice of teacher. My mother-in-law turned out to be not only a competent teacher, but also an unusually interesting woman, capable of captivating and infecting with her passion for the subject. French, as performed by her, sounded like music, like exquisite poetry, awakening an incredible emotional response in the soul. "Understand, Ethan, French is not just a means of communication," Eve would tell me inspiringly, sitting across from me and sparkling with a radiant smile. "It's a special art, a special way of looking at the world. Through language, we express our feelings, dreams, and experiences. And the French, believe me, have it all together." I listened to her as if spellbound, catching every word, every intonation. And it wasn't just about the language itself, although it really was opening up to me in a new, incredibly attractive way. No, there was something about Eve that made my heart pound wildly and my hands go cold. Whether it was her radiant smile, the sparkle in her clear eyes, or the grace of her movements, I don't know. But I was becoming increasingly aware that the attraction I felt for my mother-in-law was far from an innocent student-teacher crush. However, it seems that this attraction was mutual. With each lesson, our communication became more relaxed, playful, sometimes even frivolous. We exchanged meaningful glances, casually touched each other while reading dialogues from the textbook. And once, while checking my homework, Eve ran her finger over my arm in such a promising way that it sent shivers down my spine. "Tout est parfait, Monsieur Ethan," she purred, looking into my eyes. "You definitely have a talent for French. It's as if the language of love is in your blood." I swallowed and tried to smile, although everything inside me was burning with desire. God, she's openly flirting with me, and it's clearly not just about French, but how to react, what to do with this realization. After all, Eve is my mother-in-law, the mother of my beloved wife. Getting involved with her is like playing with fire. Nevertheless, the temptation was too great to resist. I could no longer think of anything but Eve, her seductive smile, and the sound of her voice. It seemed that the whole world had faded, receded into the background, giving way to an all-consuming passion. And I understood. It can't go on like this for long. Eventually the dam will burst, and woe to us both. The denouement came spontaneously and inevitably, as if in the novels that my wife loves so much. It was another hot Thursday. The sun was beating down mercilessly, and Eve and I decided to study in the gazebo, in the shade of lush trees in her garden. Sitting side by side on a wicker couch, we were just parsing some text. I think it was an excerpt from a romance novel. "Madame Bovary, I'm going crazy over you," Eve read aloud, and there was genuine passion in her voice. "Your gaze, the touch of your hand drives me crazy. I can no longer hide my feelings." She turned to me and our eyes met. At that moment, something clicked, as if an invisible lever had been triggered. Throwing the book aside, I leaned forward and kissed Eve's lips, almost crushing them to the point of pain. She gasped, but immediately responded, parting her mouth and letting my tongue in. God, it was like jumping off a cliff, an incredible flight without a safety net. All good thoughts, all arguments of reason instantly evaporated, yielding to pure, untainted passion. We kissed frantically, greedily, as if for the last time, pressing against each other with our whole bodies. "Eve, I can't take it anymore," I almost groaned, burying my face in her hair. "You're driving me crazy. I'm going crazy over you." "Then don't," Eve whispered, forcefully dragging her nails down my back. "Be with me here and now. I want you like crazy." Then everything merged into one insane, sensual lump. Clothes flew to the floor, exposing bodies burning with desire. Hands and lips slid over skin, giving blinding, incomparable pleasure. We didn't think, didn't reason, only gave in to the impulse, dissolved into each other without a trace. I don't know how long this sweet madness lasted, maybe minutes, maybe hours. I only remember that when it was over, I was overwhelmed by an incredible feeling of peace and satiety, as if I had found what I had been striving for all my life. I lay there holding Eve close to me, feeling like the happiest man on earth. "Ethan, that was incredible," she said softly, kissing my shoulder. "But you understand that this is just between us, right? Sophie must never find out." "Of course," I smiled, running my fingers through her hair. "It will be our little secret, our sweet French secret." We lay there, bodies intertwined, enjoying each other's closeness. And even then I knew that no matter what happened, I would never give up these magical moments. Even if I had to spend my whole life hiding the truth and leading a double game, it's worth it. From that very day, French lessons smoothly transitioned into lessons of passion and seduction. Eve and I used every opportunity to be alone and enjoy each other. Fortunately, time and place were always found. Sometimes I would stay late at her place under the pretext of a particularly difficult topic. Sometimes we would go to a neighboring town for a lecture or seminar. But the true purpose of these trips was always the same: blissful hours in a hotel, alone, in each other's arms. I had no idea that a secret romance could be so exciting, thrilling, full of intense sensations. Each of our meetings was akin to a sip of pure adrenaline, making me feel as if I had shed 20 years. With Eve, I felt young again, full of strength and energy, ready to move mountains. Strangely enough, my relationship with my wife only benefited from this. Now that I was regularly getting a powerful emotional and sensual recharge, family responsibilities came much easier to me. I became more attentive to Sophie, gave her gifts and surprises more often, supported her in her endeavors. Seeing her blossom with happiness, I mentally thanked Eve, because it was thanks to our affair that I learned to be a truly good husband. Of course, sometimes doubts and even fear of exposure would creep in. After all, leading a double life is hard work, constant self-control, and vigilance. I had to watch every word, every look, every accidental slip of the tongue. Sometimes it seemed that Sophie was about to figure it all out. My mood was too radiant and my eyes too bright. But apparently my acting talents were beyond all praise. My wife suspected nothing, and Eve and I continued to enjoy our little sinful paradise. Day after day, week after week, our passion did not wane, but only burned stronger. The only thing that marred our idyll was the impossibility of being together openly, without hiding. Every time I parted with Eve after a date, I felt my heart clench with longing and unwillingness to let her go. And sometimes, in a rush of feeling, I would begin to cherish the insane thought: why not spit on everything and run away together somewhere far, far away? Start a new life, just the two of us, without looking back at the past. However, I immediately dismissed these dreams as unrealistic and even harmful. After all, I had my own life, my own obligations and attachments. And deep down, Eve understood that our romance was a fairy tale mirage, beautiful but short-lived. Each of us had our own roles that we could not abandon. And yet, how intoxicating it was to dive into this mirage head first, to let it overwhelm us, to give us unforgettable moments of true happiness. I knew that no matter what happened next, this period would forever remain in my memory as one of the brightest and most exciting in my life. Months went by, and my secret romance with Eve was gaining momentum. Now we were no longer content with occasional dates. We wanted more. We wanted real closeness, almost a full-fledged relationship. We started planning joint trips, coming up with reasons to slip away for a few days, just the two of us. Sometimes I would take Eve with me on a business trip, passing her off as a colleague or translator. Sometimes she would volunteer to go with me to an exhibition, supposedly for educational purposes. Sophie never suspected anything, taking our increasingly frequent business absences at face value. Amusingly sometimes, in moments of particularly passionate embraces, Eve and I would joke that we would definitely get caught someday, like the heroes of all those French novels. Our escapades were becoming too obvious and risky, but apparently, fortune was on our side. Each time we managed to wriggle out of it, to play the situation in such a way that no one would have a shadow of a doubt. I remember a funny incident when Eve and I, carried away, lost track of time and almost got caught by Sophie. I had completely forgotten that my wife had promised to stop by her mother's after work, and I showed up at Eve's for another lesson with a light heart. We were just passionately kissing on the couch in the living room when we heard the sound of the door opening. My heart sank, my temples pounding with horror. Was it Sophie? But Eve didn't lose her cool. With a lightning-fast movement, she grabbed a French textbook and, opening it in the middle, shoved it into my hands. "So where were we?" she said in a businesslike tone, fixing her hair. "Oh, yes, irregular verbs. Let's go over the conjugations again." When Sophie entered the room, Eve and I were sitting over the book with the most nonchalant air, moving our lips and pretending to be repeating grammar. My wife raised her eyebrows in surprise, but didn't suspect anything. "Wow, you're so engrossed," she chuckled, looking us over. "Ethan, I had no idea you were such a diligent student." "Oh, come on, dear," I grinned, sending Eve a sly look. "Your mom is a real magician. With her, any language seems easy and fascinating." Eve and I exchanged knowing glances, barely suppressing laughter. Oh yes, we only lied a little bit about that. The French lessons really did turn out to be fascinating. So much so that they were pulling us deeper and deeper like a whirlpool. But strangely enough, this whole double life, this stream of lies and evasions did not weigh on me at all. On the contrary, I felt a strange elation, almost delight that I was managing to hold all the strings in my hands so deftly. Family, work, a passionate affair. I managed to combine it all without letting the masquerade collapse. Of course, I was aware that it couldn't go on like this forever. Someday I would have to make a choice, to make a difficult decision. But it wasn't even about the fear of exposure or the guilt. No, I was afraid of something else entirely. That my relationship with Eve would begin to wither, lose its intensity and edge. That love and desire would be replaced by habit, and the magic would dissipate like smoke. That's why I clung so tightly to the status quo, to our sweet secret, not wanting to change anything. I liked balancing on the edge. I liked the taste of forbidden fruit. And judging by the passion with which Eve gave herself to me, this game turned her on just as much. And so it went on. Week after week, month after month, we blissfully played this hide-and-seek, diving into each other's arms at every opportunity. French lessons became something of a personal code for us, a secret sign of belonging to a special club. And it seemed to me that it would always be this way. Despite everything, we would keep our little loophole into the world of sensual pleasures. And let the whole world wait. Eve and I still have many blissful encounters ahead of us. As she once whispered, kissing me goodbye after another secret rendezvous, "Ethan, promise me that our lessons will never end. I want to always live this, breathe this, to be yours, only yours, mon amour." And I promised, because I realized that now I really couldn't live any other way. My love for Eve had become a part of me, a breath of fresh air, as necessary as life itself. It doesn't matter how many masks I have to put on or how many legends I have to make up. I will never give up this sweet madness. After all, they say that French is the language of love. And even I confirm this truth every day, passionately, selflessly, to the point of madness. Lesson after lesson, kiss after kiss, forever. Did you like this story? Let us know in the comments what you liked. Subscribe to our storytelling podcast. Also, don't forget to like and ring the bell so you don't miss more interesting stories. See you soon.